Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alicia Suggs. I am the Director of University and Alumni Relations, part of the Metro New York chapter of the National Black MBA Association. Welcome to the Your Future, Your MBA weekly digital webinar series. Today's series will be on the future of networking, and I'm very excited because we have Molly Creese here that's going to give you some great tips on how you can network during COVID-19 and post-COVID-19, as well as what happens if a lot of your schools go to a virtual format, how you can network during that time. Before we get started, just to let you all know, if you have any questions, please enter them into the chat box. My co-host Dianna Phoenix and I will be reviewing the chat box periodically throughout the webinar to answer all of your questions in real time. But before we get started, I'm going to kick it over to my co-host so that she can introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dianna Phoenix, and I assist Alicia with the University and Alumni Relations Committee for the New York chapter of the National Black MBA Association. I'm excited to be here with you guys and with Molly, who's going to give us some great tips on networking. So let's get started. Molly?
Thanks, Dianna. Before we get started, I just want to give you guys a background on Molly Creese. Molly Creese is the CEO and founder of We Network Services, LLC, a company focused on professional development through networking. Molly believes that networking is extremely important and promotes career growth. She believes the reward is greater than the risk of putting yourself out there and practices this principle in her professional career. She is also the program director for the National Black MBA Association Leaders of Tomorrow program and serves on the board of the National Black MBA Association Metro New York chapter. Molly has been a mentor for more than 10 years and is dedicated to the growth and development of others. She is an account manager at Jesco Footwear Group, a manufacturing company. Molly is also a certified insurance agent and tax preparer. With more than 10 years of professional experience in business and finance and as a financial consultant for World Financial Group, Molly engaged in educating families on money and developed workshops to teach women in financial literacy and the importance of building wealth. Born in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Molly was raised on Christian values. This upbringing contributes to her dedication to giving and helping others. Molly migrated to the USA in 2004 and attended Monroe College and graduated with honors, obtaining a bachelor's degree in business administration. She later attended Long Island University, where she gained her MBA in business and finance. Molly is a great connector and motivator of people. Currently, Molly is focused on her entrepreneurial career, building new businesses and creating a brand that will give great impact and affect change. And just to give you guys a fun fact about Molly, Molly was a resident assistant in undergrad. She was also on the president's list consistently and voted most ambitious and most to succeed. She was also voted student government president and was instrumental in developing the first NABA and National Black MBA Association chapter on campus at Long Island University in Brooklyn. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Molly. Hi, Molly. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How is everyone today?
Great. Great. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm very excited to hear all the tips that you're able to provide to us.
Okay.
Just to start off, so networking, is it really good to have an elevator pitch, like a 2 to 5 minute spiel of who you are, so that when you are connecting with someone for the first time, you have something that's kind of recited or pre-prepared on how you can introduce yourself to someone?
So elevator pitch is important, but it is also important not to be robotic and too rehearsed, because there are different instances where your elevator pitch might change. So you might find yourself in a situation where you've practiced this one pitch, and then you find yourself in a situation where that pitch does not go for that particular circumstance. So while you're practicing your elevator pitches, also practice ways to open a conversation. So it's not just always about the generic elevator pitch, but you open a conversation with a smile. How are you? You might notice maybe it's a she's wearing a shoe you like. You open a conversation about that. Maybe a nice suit or clothing, and be careful how you address these type of compliments as well. but also don't just focus on the generic elevator pitch because it might not work in that instance that you're in. So just to remember that.
That's really helpful. So during COVID-19, you know, there's a lot happening during this time. What are some ways that an MBA candidate would be able to network, you know, I guess virtually, because a lot of us are home. I know that New York has opened up the phase 1 of allowing, you know, certain businesses to open, but we know a lot of things are still shut down. What are some tips that you can give some of the students on how they can network during this time?
So just to let everyone know, I did not just come about like loving networking and oh, it's networking. I was coming from a small country, coming into United States in this big place that's populated with so many people. I was awkward. I was antisocial. I did not want to get to know someone, let alone be in a crowd or an event networking. And I know this might be, some of you might feel the same way. If you feel the same way, you can just put it in the chat. But I hated networking, and I was also insecure about going to networking events. I would go with friends, and I would be that person that would be with my friend group, or I will just be at the bar or in the corner until someone comes up to talk to me. So I was the observer. I was that kind of a networker. And so there were instances too where I would go to networking events and I would feel like I did not measure up. I would feel like my resume did not correspond with the people that were in the room. Mm-hmm. And so at one point I spoke to family, I spoke to friends, and I did an exercise where I listed my value on paper. And when I looked at my value and all of my accomplishments and all of my experiences and stuff like that, I was like, Molly, you are the shit. Why are you acting like this? No, so I'm going to say to you on this call that don't feel inferior, don't feel intimidated, because right now that can be an issue as well, where you've never virtually networked online before. You feel intimidated, you feel like you don't know how to maneuver these platforms. First of all, I want to say to you, why are you networking? Because that's going to be important as you navigate your networking journey. Find out why you're networking. And also, if you have those negative attitudes towards networking, you might want to reevaluate and develop a new mindset, because you develop a new mindset, a winning mindset, then you're ready to bring relationships into your life, into your network that's going to be valuable to you. So you have to first consider why you want to network. Secondly, you need to realize your value, because if you don't know what value you have, then why are you networking? So you need to know what your value is. Networking is about offering, it's not about asking. So if you don't have value to contribute, that's going to be a problem. It's not a one-sided thing. It's not you networking to ask me for stuff. It's not going to be like that. It has to be offer, and it has to be a mutual relationship where I add value and you add value as well. So those are stuff that you have to take into consideration when networking. If you're new to networking, I would say start with family and friends. Start networking with them. Practice, because you don't just come about being a master networker and a connector overnight. I had to practice, and I'm still practicing. So I would say practice, and also make sure that your networking reasons, that you are laying out a plan for those, to see those reasons come to fruition. So first, I would say realize what you want to network for, and realize your network ability. Put your value down on paper, and make sure you have all of that necessary things planned out to know why you want to network in the first place. Networking in COVID-19, some challenges: self-confidence, your social media novice, you're unclear on your value, as I said before, and you have no clear vision and no clear path. So you would find yourself okay, you want to go on LinkedIn, but you don't know how to network on LinkedIn. There has to be a strategy in place. You're just going and you're just adding people. That is not networking. You're just adding people to your page, and quality is better than quantity. So if you're just adding people and you're just having that quantity, there is no strategic way that you're going about it. It's not going to work for you, and you're not going to get those goals that you set out to achieve.
So Molly, what's a good strategy that one should take when it comes to networking on LinkedIn?
Okay, so perfect. For networking on LinkedIn, first and foremost, I would say that make sure your heading is clear, and also make sure that your picture is clear, and make sure that you're smiling in that picture. You don't want to have a serious face because you're not. You want to appear approachable. Also, make sure that you're clearly written out your values on LinkedIn. Like I said, put it down on paper first. LinkedIn is way more than your resume. It's not just your resume, it's what you have done. So it's not just about your experience and your education, but also people want to see that you're adding value on LinkedIn. So you might have a business, or you might be a student and you're in a club, or you're in student government, or you've started a club. Stuff like that you need to put on LinkedIn so that people see that you're engaged. Also, to network properly on LinkedIn, you need to be posting. I would say post at least, sometimes I post daily, sometimes I post weekly, but make sure you post frequently to make sure that your presence is there. Because if you have a LinkedIn page and you haven't visited it for a month, 2 months, 3 months, then you're hardly there. So that means you're not maintaining and you're not managing your network. So you have to make sure that you're there, make sure that you're posting, make sure that you're adding value. If you put up a post and you see no traction on it, a trick in LinkedIn is to tag someone in your network and maybe ask them a question. More times than not, that person is going to respond, and then other people is going to see that that person has responded, and that's going to start a conversation on your post. And right there, you're creating content for your page, and then you're attracting people to your page that you want to attract. So those are good tips to utilize on LinkedIn. Also, if you're interested in specific interests and there are articles that you're interested in, share those articles. If you see someone that influences you, that you want to network with, that you want to build a connection with, and you don't know how to reach out to them, the best way to do that as well is to share their posts. They see you share their posts and you tag them and you sharing their posts, then that person is now obligated to reach out to you and say, thanks for sharing my post. And then that opens up a gateway for you to have a conversation. So those are some tips on how you can network on LinkedIn. There's a lot more, but we have limited time, so I'm gonna stop there. And if you have questions, or if anyone else has questions.
I just wanted to take it over to the chat box for a second, because someone did post a comment in reference to something that you mentioned a little bit earlier, saying that they did feel, when going out to network, that they're being a bit reserved and not necessarily feeling like they don't measure up to others, or that they don't have as much experience as others in the room, kind of held them back. But I think you touched on that in saying, decide on what your goal is and determine your own value when you go into these situations, and that'll help ease your nerves around that. So just wanted to make sure that they know we see them in the chat box.
Thanks, Diana. I have another question for you, Molly. So like you mentioned, when you're networking, you want to make sure that you have something to offer. How do you continue building on that relationship that you just started with that person, either virtually or when, everything opens up after COVID-19 in person? How do you make sure you keep that connection going and it just doesn't you met them one time and it fell flat and you never talked to them again?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So I would say if you have someone that you've connected with and You haven't connected with them in months, in a while. And it's COVID-19 now, you're in quarantine, you have that time to take a look at your network and you say, oh my gosh, I haven't connected with this person in a while. Okay, we're in the perfect environment for you to engage in a conversation. I would say this COVID-19 quarantine, it's bad and it's good, but you can turn it into such a positive with networking. You reach out and you say, I haven't spoken to you in a while. How are you doing? Is there something I can help you with, I can offer you? Or maybe you visit their page and you see that their interest is in this area and you come across an article and you say, hi, I've noticed this article, I think it might be of interest to you, and you send that article to them. Right there, boom. You've opened up the lines of communication again. And it's not awkward, it's not forceful, it's authentic. You're showing up that you care and you're sharing information. You're not asking. Because if you show up and you just act, then it becomes annoying, it's rude, and they don't want to respond. So if you do that and you share that information and you genuinely ask, how are you, or how are you doing, that sort of thing, then that gives you the opportunity to engage in that conversation again and come back to the table with that person that you lost that communication with.
That's really helpful. Is there a distinctive way that you should network, like virtually in comparison to in person? Like, should your communication in the beginning be different? Should there be, distinctive difference between the two?
So I would say for the introverts and for the people that are not accustomed to networking, virtually, this is a perfect time. It's just laid out there for you. So now you don't have to have the nerves to kind of go into that conversation. You can have hours to practice before. If you're going onto a Zoom call, you figure out what you have to say. If you have to tap into that friend or someone to motivate you to get on that Zoom call, then it's a perfect time to do that. I would say also it's easy because you're not just rushing into someone and asking them, what do you do? And all these kinds of questions. So if you're interested in a topic, interested in an industry, and you see someone that you want to make a new connection with, you can just reach out and say, hey, is it possible for us to have an informational chat or an informational interview? And you set up a time on the Zoom or on a call to do that chat. You're sharing information, you're not asking for anything. Also, it's easy Facebook has a lot of Facebook groups that you can join, business groups that you can join, and you can give your conversation, give your input, you join the conversation, and there you're networking and people are exchanging information. Right now, we're in a time where people have had an eruption of consciousness and they're talking about COVID-19 and they're talking about Black lives and all these things. And there are all these webinars and stuff going on with these conscious conversations. I have been on more than a few of them in the past 2 weeks. Even though I'm not on there to network and I'm on there just to share information and get together, at the end you end up networking as well because everyone share their information, everyone share their knowledge and stuff. You might find out about a group that you want to join and you get to join that group and affect change. And right there, you're starting to create content for yourself and beginning to create impact that would become greater at a greater level if you continue with those relationships. So I think it's a perfect opportunity to network virtually and to really get in there and develop those skills. You might not be good at networking, but you just get in the room, just get yourself in the room, and then the rest would happen as you go along.
That's great. That's great. I'm going to stop here. Do we have any questions in the chat, Diana?
Well, I think this is more of a comment, but it says that developing authentic relationships on LinkedIn is key right now. Also, you have to be open to the other person not following up with you when you want them to. You have to keep moving and keep going. So I think definitely when you're entering these new virtual spaces, it's important to, reach out, but then if you don't hear anything back, keep going, make other connections. There's a whole world of people out there that you can connect with right now. So definitely, I think that's a good tip.
Yeah, that's important. Give people time. Give people time to respond to you. Not because you send me a message today, that means you're gonna get a message back from me the very same day. Especially if it's someone that you're reaching out to that might be an executive level person or an industry leader. These people already have stuff going on. They're not sitting waiting for you to send them a message and for them to respond right away. So be patient and give people time to respond. And don't be annoying don't be a pusher. Don't be that networker that push. Because you want to develop a network. You're not just waiting on that one person. You're trying to develop that circle of people, that crew that is going to be your core network, that's going to be able to push you, to champion you, and to challenge you in things. So keep that networking bracket open and keep networking with different individuals.
That's great. What are your thoughts on digital business cards? And do you think that paper business cards are becoming obsolete?
I think, I don't want to say obsolete because I have been in networking events where people still use the paper business cards. I think the paper business cards are a personal touch. You meet people on a personal level that way. I know everybody is automated right now and into the online stuff and everything like that. That is good, but you do still need the physical business cards, in my opinion, because like I said, it gives a personal touch when you're handing out that business card to someone. But it is also good to have that digital card as a backup, because we all run into issues. We all run into those situations where you might meet someone on the street, or you might go to a networking event and you don't have those actual business cards with you. It's always good that the digital is right there as a backup for you to get that information and for you not to miss that opportunity. Because you don't want to have a missed opportunity. You want to take advantage of all the opportunities that you can, so that you're building that network to go towards the goal that you're trying to achieve.
So when I was a business student, I had business cards, but they were actually had my school's information on it. Do you think as an MBA candidate, they should do something similar to that, or maybe look at an outside vendor to actually get a business card? Because I know that obviously sometimes they don't have jobs. Some of them are in full-time programs. So what options do you think are good for MBA candidates when it comes to business cards?
When I was in college, I created my own business card. There was publisher and the template, and you can just do that and take it to the library and cut it out, and you have your own business card. It looks professional, it looks the same way, and you have it there. I would say to the students on this call, if you can do that, do that. If you have the money and you can make a professional business card, that's always good as well too. Make the professional business card. But then don't be a business card networker.
What does that mean?
And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. You go to have you ever gone to these events and you meet these people and all they do is hand you their business cards? That's it. I'm just handing out. I take 100 business cards and I handed out all 100 of my business cards. And then I go home and I feel so happy and so good because I've handed out 100 business cards. What value have you gotten from handing out those 100 business cards? Have you gotten a phone call? Have you done a follow-up meeting? Have you done a follow-through? How many connections have you gained from handing out those 100 business cards? How many business cards came back to you, and how many of those business cards have you reached out to with an email or with a follow-up and preparing for a meeting, a Zoom meeting, or an informational meeting? So don't be a business card networker. That's a no-no.
What do you suggest should be on a business card for an MBA candidate or an alumni?
So for an MBA candidate on your business card, definitely your name. I would say you can definitely put your school email on there if you have your school email. If you are in charge of a group or you student government president or something like that, that's definitely good to put on your business card as well. If you have a LinkedIn profile, that might be good to put on there. You might not want to put your number or anything like that, but definitely put those things that are worthy on there so that people can reach out to you. Make sure your email on there. Make sure your email does not say some funny kind of email. Your email, I've seen so many emails from students where they are so cringeworthy. You're like, why do you have this as an email? Make sure your email is either your first and last name at Gmail or at whatever it's at.com, and try not to be too creative in putting stuff that people don't understand as your email, because it comes across as tacky and not professional.
Got it. That's helpful. And what if you are an alumni with your first job? Like, for example, I don't know, because the thing is like when you get your first job, you may stay there for like 2 or 3 years, depending on what you do. And, if you get a whole bunch of business cards that may say project manager, you might have to get new sets of business cards for your new job. So what would be something generic that somebody could use so that, they don't have to constantly recreate a business card when they move to different jobs?
Well, the thing is, realistically, you might have to have different business cards, right? It depends on your level of experience. Because I have a business card for National Black, and then I have a business card for my other stuff. The thing is, you can put everything on one, but it might be too much information on one card. So you might not want to do that. I would say put who you want to show up as, if that makes any sense. Put what you most are impressed of, and what you want people to know, and make that as your business card. How you want to show up to other people, make that as your business card if you want to create just have one business card. And yes, I would say that is how I would go about doing that with where the business cards are concerned.
That's really helpful. I never thought of having multiple business cards, but I think that makes a lot of sense. Do you recommend a student or an alumni adding all their degrees after their name, or should it just be their first and last name, possibly middle initial? Because sometimes you may have like an MBA, a JD, a PhD, and then it just gets to be a lot. Do you think that's even helpful for you to have all of your degrees listed on your business cards?
So I've been seeing a lot of people doing that. They're adding the MBA, the PMP, and the all the P's and the Q's and whatever. It can be overwhelming, and this is my opinion. Someone might say different. It can be overwhelming. It also can be looked at as you showboating. And you never want to be showboating in networking. You want to show up as confident and as valuable, but also you don't want to show up as being overconfident and showboating. Because also in networking, you don't want to bring down the other persons that you're networking with. You have to be careful in that sense. Like for instance, a connector, a master networker would know that he or she needs to help others, needs to connect others, and the master connector would not be a showboater. Now, you show up with a presence in the room. You show up as confident. You show up as knowing what you're portraying, knowing what your value is. But I don't think you have to have all these things behind your name. You can certainly put 1 or 2, but if you are to put all of that on the business card, there might not be enough room for it. That is why you have your LinkedIn profile. That is why you have your resume. That is why you have some professionals have their own website. That is why you have all those things. Because realistically, if you give me your business card, I'm going to research you. And if I truly want you in my network and I want you to be a part of my circle, my core of network, I'm going to do some research on you. I'm just not going to let you into my network. And that's where a lot of people falter, because they think networking is just about being social with someone and being and building a relationship. But when you get deep into networking and you really have a strategy and you know your purpose of networking, maybe it's to get career advancement, maybe it's to create a bigger impact, maybe it's to gain new foundation, or to network with industry leaders because you want to be on their same level, then you're going to realize that all of that stuff is not as important. And when you network, you have to do your research of that person and not just let anyone into that circle of network that you're trying to build.
Interesting. So I know we're about 28 minutes to the top of the hour. Dianna, any questions in the chat box?
Yes, so we have another question about LinkedIn. Molly, what are some quick do's and don'ts when writing a message to someone at a company that you would love to work at, such as a recruiter or someone in leadership at that company?
Okay. Do not, believe it or not, some people do this. Do not start your message with, "What do you do?" It's annoying, and I will not answer you. And I would ask you if you did not check my LinkedIn profile, because it would be clear to me that you just happened to see my name pop up and you just click connect, and you didn't bother to do your homework or to do your research, right? That is number one. If you want to have a job at this company, please do not go about your first message being, "I want a job," or "I want to work for you." I would say first, follow the company, because on LinkedIn you can follow the company. Secondly, I would say do some research on the company to make sure you know what department you want to get into in that company. Then I would also say connect with some people on LinkedIn that are working at that very same company. And fourth, I would say reach out to some of those people and ask for information, ask for insight on the work environment, on the atmosphere. It's a company that I admire, I would like to work for. How do I go about approaching the recruiter, approaching someone in this sense? So you do all that groundwork before you establish meeting the recruiter. And the kicker is, you might not even have to talk to the recruiter, because you've built a relationship with someone that's working in that company. That very same person can champion you to that recruiter, and you would not even have to say anything to that recruiter, because they would say, "Okay, send me your resume, send me this, and I will take it to the recruiter for you." Then it's better that way, because that person is already in the company. They might have leverage already in that company, and then they're able to champion you and push you forward into that position that you're looking to get into. So those are just some tips on if you're looking for a position in that company. I think that's the best way to go about it, rather than just attacking the recruiter right away. That might be a turnoff, because recruiters are getting hundreds of applications daily, and it might profit you better if you build a relationship with someone within that company so that they can champion for you.
That's helpful. Dianna, any other questions in the chat?
Not at the moment.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. I think that was great information, Molly. I think that definitely building relationships with current employees and even former employees on LinkedIn can definitely lead to a referral of some type. So thanks for sharing that.
Thanks. So switching over to, we know that things are kind of just uncertain in terms of the next semester or the fall semester for incoming students. And I know, especially for MBA candidates, networking is a huge thing when it comes to being in their their first year of business school. What tactics or strategies should they utilize if everything is in a virtual environment? How do you network with your peers and your teachers and other people in different programs? What tips would you give some of the candidates on the line about that?
Okay, so great question. I would say build a relationship with your professors online. Also, there might be a topic that you don't understand. I assume professors in real time when you're on campus, the professors that have times set up or times slated where you can go to them and talk to them one-on-one. I'm assuming that you can do that very same thing virtually. So you can ask your professor for a one-on-one and network with them that way. Also, you can develop a chat within your student community where you guys are getting together and discussing. You might be discussing the topic that your school topic that your professor is talking about, or you might be able to discuss other things. It's also a perfect opportunity for you to develop an organization or a group or a chat room among your colleagues, among your teammates, that you can discuss certain things and other things. Also, there might be an assignment where you have to work in teams. Take that opportunity as well to network with your classmates. I would also say too, networking online, join organizations. I developed my network ability and my networking skills from joining the National Black MBA. And in the National Black MBA, I have been able to gain champions, mentors, connectors, sponsors, and these people are very valuable in your network circle. So I would say to those students, join those organizations on your campus, and even though you're not on campus, they would be virtual as well. There's National Association of Black Accountants, there's the National Black MBA. I think there's an association for doctors. There's all these different organizations out there that you can join, and they have webinars, workshops, and all these different things that you can actually build your network. And you might be in a position to be on the board and really be someone of influence. And right there, your network ability has gone from level 1 to a level 10. So those are some really great tips on how you can, even though networking virtually online, even though you're not on campus, those are some things that you can still do to build your network and to keep maintaining and managing that network.
That's really helpful. Dianna, I think we have some questions in the chat.
We do. And I just wanted to say, Molly, the National Black MBA Association works with all of those organizations that you just mentioned, and they're all very great. So yes, we do often collab with them, but definitely join organizations, join the National Black MBA Association, especially like if you're a student now. As a student member, we're definitely looking to support you guys in that. So, okay, so we have a question. Molly, what's the difference between networking on different social media platforms, such as Facebook and Instagram, as opposed to LinkedIn? And how important is it to have a clean profile?
Okay, so that's an awesome question. That's a great question. So LinkedIn is a professional profile, a professional platform, right? Instagram, you post pictures, you can go on Instagram for anything and you would see any and everything. Facebook is the same way. Facebook is becoming dialed out, it's becoming old and transforming. Everything's going over to Instagram, but it's the same. I would say to someone, if you It depends on the networker you want to be, and it depends on what kind of networking you want to do. So if you want, and it also depends on your brand, okay? So if you want to be, if you're a professional person and you want to be taken really serious in your field and what you do, then I would say first go to LinkedIn. There's there is where you're going to get all your professional um, information, platform, value, everything that you need on LinkedIn. As a student, I would say to go and make sure you have a LinkedIn profile. Instagram is not bad, but it's how you do it and how you control it. So you have to control your messaging on Instagram and make sure that your messaging is consistent with your other platforms. You don't want to have split personalities. If you're doing that, you might want to have a personal page and make sure your page that is personal stays personal and you do not mix it with your business page. Because sometimes you see some people, they have their Instagram pages and they have, sometimes I see the pictures and I'm like, but you're promoting professional stuff, but you have that kind of a picture on there and that kind of post there. It doesn't really mesh with your brand and what you're trying to portray out there. So make sure your messaging is consistent on all platforms. You can have fun with it. Yes, I'm not saying not to have fun with it, but make sure that message is consistent, because when someone is researching you, whether it be for a job or to do business with you or to network with you, they are going to search all these different platforms. And if your messaging is not consistent, then you might not get that job. You might not get the interview. You might not get the business sale. You might not. So it all depends on your brand. It depends on the kind of networker you want to be. And it depends on the kind of information you want to put out there. If that makes sense.
No, it does.
The question.
Molly, you mentioned that Facebook is kind of getting old, and I thought the same thing, but then I realized that it definitely depends on the industry or who you're trying to connect with, because a lot of seasoned professionals are still on Facebook, and that is their means of, that is their community. That is where they communicate. And so if you want to reach, I was speaking to someone in regards to education, and there are a lot of Facebook groups that are education centered, that are, that's where all of the head honchos are. So you definitely need to.
You're definitely right. You're definitely right. The best way to utilize Facebook as growing and building your network is to join those groups that are in line with your brand and in line with your purpose and are in line with what you want to do. Because there are a lot of different groups on Facebook. There is We NYC, which is a woman business group. There's woman entrepreneurs groups on Facebook. There's Black business owners groups and all these different groups on Facebook that you can actually join and tap into their network, because they have thousands upon thousands of followers and people in these groups. So you can potentially be tapping into such a big network. So it all depends on where you want to go and how you navigate your way and how you wanna show up as your brand and as a network, building that network.
So I know you mentioned Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. What about Twitter? Is Twitter a way that we can network as well?
Twitter is definitely, let's just say this, you can network about any and every way you can. You can network on the bus, you can network on the train, you can network on the street, because you might come across an opportunity that you would not foreseeing, but it just happened, and you just happen to, your networking gear kicking, and you just do it right there. So you can network anywhere possible. The difference is strategic networking when you're networking on these platforms. What are you utilizing Twitter for? Is it to build a presence, or is it to just get likes? Figure out what you're utilizing it. Figure out what you're utilizing it for, and then build it around that purpose. Because if you're just creating a Twitter platform just to have a Twitter platform, then it's not going to be effective. So you have to figure out why you want to utilize Twitter and focus your tweets and whatever you post on that purpose that you want to get to. Because remember I say quality over quantity.
As a master connector, do you think it's good to build out a strategy on how you should network? Say you have your own business, or starting your own business as, you know, in school or something. Should you build out a strategy on how many people you should have in your network quarterly, biannually, monthly? Should you attack it that way, or should it just be something that's kind of organic?
Oh, definitely. That's a great question. See, my notebook here. You definitely have to have a plan and a strategy, and you definitely have to have it written down. Some networking gurus or experts would tell you that you should have at least 100 to 150 people that you know that you can call on tomorrow. That's in your core of network. And those people are called your circle, your crew, your tribe, whatever you want to call them. That's those core people that you know if you lose your job today, you can call Sandy tomorrow and say, Sandy, I'm in a bind, I lost my job. Do you have any information? Can you point me in the right direction? If you want to advance in your career, or you want to pivot to a different industry, or your career shift, you can tap into that network, get to, and like I said before, make sure within that core set of people you have connectors, champions, sponsors, mentors, because you're going to need these people. I have people that will speak for me when I'm not even in the room. So you need those kind of people that's going to talk about you and talk favorably about you when you're not even in the room. And they'll meet you up and they call you and they'll be like, for instance, I'm using Andrew as an example, and he'd be like, Molly, I was just talking to you about such and such today, and this, that, and you'd be like, oh, word? I have you in my network. That's your very purpose why you're in my network. That's the very purpose why you're in my circle. So I would say make sure you have at least 100 to 150 people. Make sure you know those people on that kind of a level, and make sure you're always in contact and maintaining those core contacts. Then you can have other connections out of that core circle that you still have to maintain, and you still have to manage, and you still have to be in contact with. So I always say it's good to have all these connections on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and all that stuff. Half of these people you don't know. Half of these people are not contributing to your network. They're just there as a quantity to build up the amount of people to say, okay, I have 3,000, 5,000 people on LinkedIn. But are they workable? Are they working for you? Is your network working for you? Can you say these people are going to help me get to that goal, that end result that I want to get to? And they very might indirectly be working for you, but you have to figure that out. And I will say, make a list of your workable connections, whether it be directly, indirectly, and those that are in the dump bucket that you might need to take out of the dump bucket and reactivate. Or if they're not working for you in your network anymore and they don't fit within that purpose or that plan that you want, then you might want to just dump them all together out of that dump bucket. So I would say definitely make a list, pull it up on a spreadsheet, say these are all my connections. There's a workable bucket, unworkable bucket that you're working on to probably rebuild that connection, or there's another bucket for new connections, those connections that you really want in your network, and also put headings to them. Say, these are my connectors, these are my champions, these are my sponsors, these are my mentors, and make sure you have them in those buckets, and make sure you manage and you maintain, make sure you follow up and make sure you follow through. Because if you don't do that, then you would think you have a network, you have all these people, and you say, yes, I have a network. But they're not working for you, because when you call on them, it'd be like, oh, you haven't contacted me in 2 months, 3 months. What do you think? Why are you asking me for something?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say make sure you really have that list and have that core network of people that you are consistently building that relationship with.
That's really helpful. Thank you. I know we have 9 more minutes left before the top of the hour. Dianna, do you have
by so quickly.
Doing great. Oh, can't hear you, Dianna.
Sorry, I thought I pressed the button. No questions so far in the chat box, but you guys are free to continue to throw them out there. I'm trying to think if I have any. Molly, tell us more about your role as a networker and your
well, I talk about making that list, and I call it audit networking, because you know when accountants, they go around and they make those audits. So make sure you're doing an audit of your network, and make sure you're establishing those buckets to see where you're at in building that network, and where you want to get to in that network building. That is so very much important. And realize that the reward is greater than the risk of putting yourself out there. You might be timid, you might not want to put yourself out there, but do it. Just get up and do it. You might not be good at it at first. Like I say, some of us are observers, some of us are procrastinators, and don't be a procrastinator. That's the worst part of networking. You procrastinate. You say, okay, maybe I'll join this group tomorrow. And tomorrow come and you find yourself busy, you're cleaning, you're doing all kind of stuff because you're home, and you're like, oh, I missed the time, I'll join it next week. And you procrastinate and you never get to that point of developing that network. Don't be that pushy networker. You're out there, we know that you're zealous, we know that you want to build that network, but don't be pushing doing it because you don't want to push that connection off that you really want to try to build and to get to know. So don't be pushy. And there's so many different type of networkers out there, but those are just a few. Remember, you're striving to get to that goal where you're that master networker and you're that connector, and you're showing up authentic, you're showing up confident, you're showing up value. And once you're showing up that way, then automatically those people on that level are going to gravitate to your greatness. They are going to gravitate to your value. And before you know it, you will be building a network of valuable players that down the road is going to transition into net worth. Because I always say, Diana, we say it all the time, your network equals your net worth. So if you want to get, and Bill Gates will tell you that, all the great millionaires and billionaires will tell you that. If you want to get to that net worth, you must have a strategy in place. You must be strategic, you must be intentional, and you must be purposeful in your networking. Some people are not gonna like it, but you have a goal that you're going for, that you're trying to achieve, and some people are not gonna be in your network. But you have to figure out how you want to build that to make sure that it gets to where you want to get to in your network ability and in achieving those goals that you want to achieve.
What about those individuals that don't like asking for help because because like sometimes they feel like they can just do it themselves, but then they do have a network, but they're just like, oh, I hate asking somebody to help me do something. What do you tell an individual like that? They may not be an introvert, but it's just like, I don't like asking people for help. I'd rather just do it myself, but you can't do everything alone.
You gotta ask for help, but if you don't like asking for help, make sure you're in the company of people that's gonna call you up. I have people calling me out all the time. Molly, you need to smile more. Molly, you could have said that a different way. Molly, you could have done this that way. That's why I say have those people around you. Mentors, 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 because they're the ones that are gonna call you out. And they're very instrumental in getting you to that purpose or that goal where you want to get to. So if you're afraid to ask for help, find yourself around a circle of people. That's why I say joining these organizations are so important, because then if you're an introvert or if you're someone that's always in the background, being in an organization such as the National Black MBA or these other organizations, they're gonna help you to get out of that cocoon, out of that shell that you're in. And before you know it, you're making friends, you're volunteering for opportunities, you're volunteering to be on different boards, you're volunteering to be part of this group, you're volunteering to help out. And before you know it, you're out of the funk and you didn't even know you got out of it, because you've immersed yourself into an environment that challenges you to get out of that, and it just brings you out of it. So that is what I would say to that.
That's really, really helpful. We have 3 more minutes, and before we close out today's webinar, Diana, any other questions in the chat?
Nope, no more questions.
Okay.
I have homework.
Oh, I'm sorry. Say that, Mom.
Can I give homework? I have homework. So I just want to say, remember, it's not about asking. It's about getting or receiving. It's about giving, and never start with "I need a job, I want this," etc. Strategic networking is about building relationships, and relationships are not formed overnight. It's not just about you or me. Remember that. For homework, if you haven't done this, I want you to document your value and outline what you can offer to your network. Maybe you can offer information on a topic of interest, points towards a resource, or make a connection to someone in someone's field. Document your worth, and also, if you already have connections, start forming that Excel spreadsheet list of your connections and start putting them in those buckets that I've mentioned. And I promise you, you would see yourself starting to network strategically to achieve those goals that you've set out for yourself. And make sure you set a goal that you want to achieve so that you can have that discipline to do that and to work towards that goal you want to accomplish.
Thank you so much, Molly. That was really helpful. Okay. Well, on the behalf of the Metro New York chapter of the National Black MBA Association, my name is Alicia Suggs, and I'm the Director of University and Alumni Relations. Thank you, Dianna Phoenix, my co-host, for being here this evening, and Molly Creese, CEO of We Network Services and the Director of the National Black MBA Association Leaders of Tomorrow program. Thank you so much for being here.
Sorry, Alicia, just feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. We're also We Network Services on Instagram, so feel free to follow us and feel free to reach out. If you need to contact me for tips, connect with me on LinkedIn. I will connect back with you, or send us an email at wenetworkservices@gmail.com, and we will most definitely get back to you and help you in your networking journey and in where you want to get to in that networking goal of yours.
Thank you so much. And just to let everyone know, please follow us on Instagram, NYBLACKMBA. Also, this webinar will be posted on our YouTube page for the Metro New York chapter of the National Black MBA Association. So please, if you want to review the video again, just to get these tips again, it'll be there for your viewing pleasures. So thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.